Police arrest a man in connection with the abduction and murder of a pregnant South Florida mother. Xavier Johnson reportedly confessed to kidnapping and killing his girlfriend, Andrea Lloyd. Police detained Johnson after he was spotted yesterday near Homestead Bayfront Park. CBS 4's Peter Dent, she's live in Florida City. And Peter, human remains were found, but have they been able to identify those positively yet?
Well, Keith, first off, that's waiting on results from the medical examiner's office before they officially identify the remains of those that were found. Now, we spoke with the father of Andrea Lloyd just moments ago before he left to speak with a Miami-Dade police detective about this case. He told me he is heartbroken. We spoke with him as well about the boyfriend, and he told me something that was rather intriguing. He told me his daughter planned to leave him.
I feel good, but, I prefer to have my daughter any day.
Arnold Lloyd tells me he's grateful that Miami-Dade police have arrested his daughter's boyfriend, 32-year-old Xavier Johnson. He faces charges including first-degree murder and kidnapping and battery after 27-year-old Andrea Lloyd was attacked at this group home near Homestead, where she worked, and was dragged to her car and driven away. A source tells CBS 4 that her remains were found next to her boyfriend's black pickup truck at Homestead Bayfront Park, where Johnson was seen and detained. Lloyd's family members called 911 after seeing Johnson there. Are you glad at least they moved quickly? They made an arrest. How do you feel about them making an arrest? I feel good with having an arrest.
But if it weren't for my family, wouldn't have got that far. Yeah, I feel good, but, they still won't bring back my daughter. Still won't bring back my daughter. So, but right now, I got to go.
She meant so much to you.
Hey, she was my everything. She was my everything. She was my everything.
She's always checking on you, making sure you're okay?
Every day. And her baby slept in my arms all night last night.
It's been difficult for this father. Lloyd, who was expecting her third child, had two sons who are 1 and 5 years old. How are you getting along right now? How are you dealing with this?
It's rough, but I got to take, if it weren't for all my other kids, it'd probably be a lot worse. But I got so many kids, and they all, is my backbone.
And she was with this guy, her boyfriend, for what, 11 years?
11 years, yeah.
11 years.
Yeah, 11 years.
And did you ever think anything like this?
If I knew anything wrong, she wouldn't have been there, because I could have put her in the house myself.
Any idea why this might have happened?
Because she was going to leave him.
She was going to leave him?
Because she was tired of him messing around on her, and she was like a wife, not a girlfriend. Which that was, it was a boyfriend girlfriend because they wasn't married, but she was like a wife.
She arrived for her overnight shift as usual. Nothing seemed out of place. The caretaking home was quiet at midnight when a knock came at the door. She answered. In the blink of an eye, a man forced his way in. Surveillance cameras caught the assault. She was dragged into her own car. Then nothing. They say the next morning, she simply wasn't there. The co-worker thought she had been called away for something urgent, but then concern turned to alarm. Family got involved. They tracked her boyfriend to remote, wooded terrain near the Homestead Speedway. Their call triggered a search. Cadaver dogs, flashlights, law enforcement combing through dense brush. During the search, human remains were discovered inside what appeared to be a large metal box. Police identified the remains as those of the woman. Her boyfriend, detained at that point, confessed. He faces multiple serious charges: first-degree murder, kidnapping, armed burglary. Held without bond, the case was flagged by a judge as potentially carrying the death penalty. Details remain sketchy, motivations unconfirmed, timelines vague, and intentions unclear. But one thing is stark: a mother of two, 6 weeks pregnant, vanishes in the dead of night. A relationship of more than a decade, 2 young children, and a third on the way, all entwined in a storyline that ends abruptly and violently. This is only the beginning. There are unanswered questions. What led to the violence? Why did she trust him enough to open that door so late? And most urgent, how did someone capable of long-term love move so seamlessly into cold-blooded murder? If you enjoy real crime stories that uncover the truth, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us share real cases, spread awareness, and give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Uncovered, where we examine the cases that shake communities and expose what happens behind closed doors. Real stories, real people, real impact. Subscribe now and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Andrea Lloyd was 27 years old at the time she disappeared. She was employed as a caretaker, a supervising role, at a group home for individuals with mental disabilities in southwest Miami-Dade. She had taken on the overnight shift after being asked to fill in for a colleague. The home was located at 13840 Southwest 285th Terrace. Surveillance footage from the premises later played a critical part in reconstructing the events of her disappearance. Andrea had 2 young sons, aged approximately 1 and 5. She was also 6 weeks pregnant with her 3rd child at the time of the incident. Her father, Arnold Lloyd, confirmed that she had stepped in for an overnight shift and had been consistent in her routine, working regular hours and caring for her children. Her godmother, Alfreda Lyons, conveyed that Andrea was the type of person her family could set a clock by, reliable and responsible. Andrea's birthday was approaching at the time of her disappearance. The local community had been preparing simple tributes, including a balloon release to honor her life. This contextual detail underscores a backdrop of normalcy and routine that collapsed abruptly. Xavier Johnson was 32 at the time of his arrest, though some reports suggest he may have been 33. The precise age variance lies in the timing of reporting. He had been in a relationship with Andrea for approximately 11 years. They lived together, and he was recognized as the father of her 2 young children. Her father described Andrea as like a wife, to Xavier despite the formal characterization as a boyfriend, indicating a shared domestic life and long-term attachment. The relationship dynamic surfaced as a potential factor in the case. Andrea's father stated that she had intended to leave Xavier, telling them she would end the relationship because he was messing around. Reports also suggest that Xavier may have been aware that Andrea's current pregnancy was fathered by another man. These details introduce potential motives tied to relationship breakdown and possible betrayal. The abduction occurred at approximately 12:30 a.m. on December 7, 2021. The location was the group home in southwest Miami-Dade, where Andrea was working the overnight shift. Surveillance footage recorded a male arriving at the facility at that time. The videos show the male knocking on the door, proceeding to physically assault Andrea and dragging her into a vehicle, her white Honda Civic bearing Florida license plate Y650DL. Andrea's father and godmother both confirmed that based on her habits and reliability, the incident was not a case of disappearance by choice. Her godmother noted Andrea never failed to contact her family, and the father stated she would never have left her children unattended. When her co-worker arrived in the morning, Andrea was not at the workplace. That prompted concern, which escalated when there was no contact from her and no explanation for her absence. The case against Xavier Johnson introduced layers of complexity that extended beyond a single night's violence. Authorities and media sources identified several possible motives. One line of inquiry suggested that Andrea Lloyd had been preparing to leave the relationship. Reports from WPLG Local 10 reference family statements indicating that she was considering ending her involvement with Johnson. Alongside this, discussion emerged that she may have been pregnant by another man, a fact her family referred to as a good secret she had not yet openly shared. Posts on Reddit discussing the case repeated this claim, citing both news reporting and local speculation. Although not confirmed in full detail by investigators, the possibility of a new relationship or pregnancy outside of Johnson's knowledge introduced a potential catalyst for violence. Beyond motive, the broader domestic dynamic between Andrea and Johnson became a point of analysis. Public perception of their relationship prior to the murder suggested stability, but post-incident interviews exposed a different reality. CBS News covered remarks from Andrea's father, who described her as like a wife to Johnson, but also indicated that she was planning to leave him. Observers highlighted how toxic dynamics can remain hidden beneath the surface. From the outside, Johnson and Lloyd appeared as a long-term couple raising children together. However, under that surface, patterns of control, possessiveness, and potential abuse went unacknowledged until a fatal outcome. Expert commentary expanded on this point. A psychiatrist interviewed by CBS News explained that individuals embedded in toxic relationships may fail to recognize the danger. Manipulation, coercion, and normalized patterns of unhealthy behavior often obscure red flags. The psychiatrist noted that many victims stay in such situations because they perceive the relationship as ordinary, or because they are gradually conditioned to accept behavior that would otherwise appear unacceptable. In this framework, Andrea's possible attempts to separate from Johnson may have represented a critical moment where hidden tensions escalated into violence. Following his arrest, Xavier Johnson was formally charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and armed burglary with assault or battery. The arraignment took place shortly after his confession. Judge Mindy Glazer appointed a public defender to represent him and ordered that he be held without bond. Media reports emphasize that prosecutors considered the case eligible for the death penalty, citing the severity of the charges and aggravating circumstances, including the victim's pregnancy. Court records indicate a standard criminal process, beginning with Johnson's booking, assignment of counsel, and the scheduling of pretrial hearings. Proceedings were delayed at points to allow for forensic examination of evidence, including surveillance footage, witness testimony, and the recovery of human remains from the wooded area near Homestead Air Reserve Base. Hearings included debates over admissibility of statements, as Johnson had confessed the crime during police questioning. Legal analysts noted that confessions, while powerful, must be scrutinized to ensure they meet evidentiary standards. The defense prepared to challenge procedural aspects of the interrogation, while prosecutors relied on the confession combined with physical evidence to build their case. The aftermath extended beyond the courtroom. Andrea Lloyd's two young children, ages 1 and 5 at the time of the incident, were placed under the care of their grandfather. Reports from WPLG indicated that her father took responsibility for their upbringing following her death. The immediate impact included both emotional and psychological challenges for the children, whose lives were abruptly altered. Custody transitions involved extended family coordination and legal oversight to ensure stability. Social workers emphasize that children in these circumstances face long-term effects, including trauma, disrupted development, and the need for ongoing support. Community awareness also shifted. Local coverage described memorial events, balloon releases, and vigils that highlighted both remembrance of Andrea and broader concerns about domestic violence. Advocacy groups used the case to emphasize the importance of recognizing warning signs and providing resources for victims. The narrative extended beyond one individual crime to serve as a cautionary example within Miami-Dade County. Educational campaigns reinforce hotlines, shelters, and counseling services, aiming to prevent similar outcomes by equipping individuals to recognize and respond to domestic abuse. Despite Johnson's confession and the charges brought against him, several aspects of the case remain unresolved. The full motive has never been completely confirmed. While family statements and local reporting suggested jealousy and betrayal as triggers, prosecutors have not released a definitive narrative. Without explicit details from Johnson himself regarding his mindset, the motive remains partially speculative. The history of Andrea and Johnson's relationship also raises questions. Their connection spanned more than a decade. Friends and family described it as long-term, with Andrea acting in many ways as a spouse. Yet, there is limited public information about whether prior incidents of violence, control, or police involvement had occurred during those years. Exploring that history is critical for understanding whether the murder was a sudden escalation or the culmination of a longer pattern of abuse. Court records and police databases may eventually clarify whether Johnson had a history of domestic incidents. Co-workers at the group home where Andrea worked also occupy a key role in the investigative narrative. Surveillance footage captured the abduction, but questions remain about workplace security protocols and whether anything could have prevented Johnson's access. Further inquiry may reveal whether staff had noticed warning signs in Andrea's personal life, or if Johnson had previously appeared at her workplace in troubling ways. Johnson's past remains another area of incomplete information. Aside from his relationship with Andrea, little has been disclosed publicly regarding his background, criminal history, or psychological profile. Analysts argue that a full evaluation is necessary to understand his trajectory toward violent crime. Forensic psychology could examine whether his actions reflected impulsivity, possessiveness, or calculated planning. Legal updates continue as the case proceeds through the court system. At the time of reporting, Johnson remained in custody awaiting trial. Sentencing outcomes, including the possibility of the death penalty, remain to be determined. Pre-trial motions, jury selection, and eventual testimony will shed light on both the crime and the surrounding circumstances. Observers note that the trial will also test how prosecutors handle confessions alongside circumstantial and forensic evidence. Broader societal reflections emerge from this case as well. Domestic violence remains a widespread issue, with cases like Andrea Lloyd's highlighting the risks faced by victims who attempt to leave abusive or controlling relationships. Experts stress the importance of systemic change, better early intervention, stronger support networks, and consistent education about warning signs. The case also demonstrates how even when a relationship appears stable to outsiders, concealed dangers can lead to lethal outcomes. For communities, the lesson extends beyond the tragedy itself, pointing toward a need for vigilance, prevention, and resource allocation to combat domestic violence. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.